On the 11th of May 2019, a colt by first offence out of Bird Flown scorched up the track here in Ace to make the winning debut. He was, of course, Siskin. The Marble Hill, the Railway Stakes and the Phoenix were all ticked off before he went to Newmarket for the Middle Park. Unfortunately, a blip in the stalls meant that that day wasn't to be his day, but he burst back into action in the Tattersall's Ireland 2000 Guineas, somehow managing to get himself out of an impossible position to scoot home and win. Next week, he runs in the Sussex Stakes. I went to Ger Lyons' Glenburnie Yard to meet Siskin and Ger. Ger, you started training for Juddmonte in 2018, but how did that relationship come about?
I'd be friendly with Rory and Barry Mahon. Rory would be the man who's ran that place for years. Now Barry has taken over from him, and Rory, I've trained winners for Rory in the past, and I'm only assuming that he put my name forward at the table when they were having their discussions of who, they wanted a new trainer in Ireland, and my name was in the hat. I'd have been disappointed if it wasn't, but it was in the hat, and thankfully.
The age-old story, it's who you know, not what you know.
Well, I don't know whether it was that. Yes, but I was training winners too, so it helped.
That's a big help.
Yeah.
Siskin obviously appeared then, but I don't know what way it works in Juddmonte. Is it an allocation, or did you go and say, I'd like him?
No, not at all, not at all. Siskin came, hello baby. Siskin came and he was just one of the draft. And like everything else, I ignored him until after the Christmas. And as we got closer towards Cheltenham, you started to be very obvious that he was the one we better be concentrating on.
He was showing you that much that early?
Yeah, he was always precocious, and Jesus, he's just a dude. This is what he is.
So when you headed off first time for his maiden, you were confident?
When I headed off first time for his maiden, yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Because I remember Rory turning around and says, now I know why you were relaxed.
It was that easy?
Yeah.
So he rocks onto the Marble Hill and he bolts in, and then you have a decision.
Well, my decision...
or the Railways?
No, there was never the decision. When he won the Marble, I turned to Teddy and Rory and I said, if you don't mind, I'd like to go Railway. It's just down the road, because I want to win the Phoenix. And I said, I have no interest in winning the Coventry. It's the same race as the Railway, not as high profile, but they're the same. It's the same grade, and it's 40 minutes away as opposed to going over there and doing all of that. And I says, ultimately, I can meet all of them, but my immediate aim is the Phoenix, and that's what I wanted to do,
So he wins the Marble Hill and he's gone 12-1 for the 2000 Guineas. Was there any thought of going up in trip, or were you happy enough to stay at 6?
I bottled it. He should have gone for the Dewhurst, and I went for the Middle Park.
That was after the Phoenix, and it lashed rain in the morning at the Phoenix, hadn't it?
Yeah. And well, the ground wasn't a problem for us, even though the boys kept telling me that he's bred for faster ground. But I had never a problem with ground. But Teddy, in fairness to him, kept saying to me, Jared, the faster the ground, wait till you see him on faster ground with that pedigree. And I said, brilliant.
So obviously then
I wanted faster ground for the Guineas.
Then you got?
For the trip, just to make sure about the trip, but... We went, hey babe, we went in and we did the Middle Park, and we put that behind us, and then we started training him. We gave him his break. He stayed here. We started looking after him. He's just a dude. He'll run the camera for you now in a minute.
I know you say you put it behind you, but when you're standing in the stand in Newmarket watching the Middle Park, he's below in the stalls and it's all going pear-shaped. You'd lost big and bold through injury.
Ruby. It happened
What's going
quick.
through your head though? You're thinking, oh,
I was
Jesus.
standing with Eve Johnson-Houghton, and something was going bananas in the stalls, and the last thing I expected was him. And then Eve said, that's you, Ger. And I looked down, and I had seen it was a bad one. And all that was in my head was, be okay, be okay.
Your heart's thumping.
Be okay. And I just wanted to walk out and go down and see him and make sure Colin was okay. And we did all of that, and I think Matt Chapman was coming rushing down. I said, Teddy, you look after him. And Teddy looked after him, and I kept going back in. And of course, the press come to you, and all I could say to them was, look, he's still unbeaten. So what else can you say?
Find a positive
he's
somewhere.
Still unbeaten, and we move on. It was just a shock, because I didn't see it happening.
Were you happy to pull the plug in his 2-year-old career then?
Yeah, that was always what we were going to do. I was never going to do anything else.
So you built through the winter. Obviously your horses were in good form early in March. They missed a beat even so on the 23rd of March. So you must have had your horses fairly ready. Then comes the lockdown. What did you do?
Well, all through the spring, I said to the boys, Dan looks at me, I said to the boys, we don't have a Guineas horse. And he's not quick enough for a Commonwealth. So it just wasn't seeing the same horse, do you know? And the first day came, remember the day the Mr. won in Naas?
Yeah.
So we galloped in Naas that next day. And then never looked back from that.
Just a day away, different track, grass, different horse.
Hit the line strong in Naas, and I went, woof. And then I said to myself, and he started building on that, and then I quietly said to the boys, I'm not saying we'll win the Guineas, but whoever beats us will.
So you get to the Guineas, you're drawing 4, Ballydoyle inside you, outside you, race develops, they pass the junction on the Curragh, and you're locked up. You starting to sweat, or are you thinking, Colin will get me out of here?
I have great faith in Colin, but I started to sweat about 12 hours previous to that. Because I seen that happening. I seen the draw and I went, oh, Janie, this is going to hurt. What can you do? What can you do? You're a hostage to fortune. And I thought Colin was brilliant. Put his left elbow out and good luck. The only thing I was annoyed about, and annoyed is probably a strong word, but I was a little bit fizzed about it, was they had a word with Colin about careless riding. And I thought, Jesus, what was he supposed to do? You know, if he didn't do what he did, you'd have accused him of being cowardly and leaving the race behind him, and he did what he did, and I thought, grand. He manned up, and the two of them manned up and took their opportunity.
But what about what the horse did? He gets out, and there's just an
and then he showed a Group 1. He was the only Group 1 winner in the race, and he showed his Group 1 speed and did it, and I loved it. Now, yeah, the experts pick hole in the form. He won the Guineas. That's all he could do, you know.
He bolted in the Guineas.
Yeah. Hi, baby.
When you're looking at the Sussex Stakes in 10 days' time, or whenever it is, a week's time, the only time he's been out of Ireland is what happened in the Middle Park. Is that still in the back of your head, or what have you done with him in the stalls since?
We worked him, but he's been brilliant in the stalls, Ruby. But we do serious work here in the stalls, all through the spring. And when you ask me what I do in the lockdown, instead of working them, when I bring you down to the gallop, I'll show you. We put the 6 in the stalls, they bounce and do a canter back rather than working the other way. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you schooling in Willys. That's what we do. We call it a schooling morning.
Practice, repetition.
Practice, repetition, and you're not a bother on him. And then I says, right, put the Harry Angel rug in, and we did, and we'll show you that later. And put the hood on him, and we did. And we could do all of it without that, but there's no need to do that for fear. Because he did it once, and for me, if a horse does something once, he can do it twice.
But you look at a horse's mentality. He's standing here, they're a bunch of fillies in there.
Yeah.
And that's some temperament.
Unbelievable, yeah. Unbelievable. And that's, I mean, you're seeing it, and that's what I've said. It's not a PR stunt, what I'm trying to say. That's this horse. And
have you been happy with his preparation?
I couldn't be happier. He's done his piece this morning. We're ready now.
Roll on Goodwood.
Roll on Goodwood, Rube. I'm not saying he'll win, but I'll put you this way. I wouldn't swap him for anybody, and whoever wins in Goodwood will know they've met him.
The Goodwood's different to the Curragh. Downhill, round the bend.
I think he'll handle it. I mean, he's adaptable. He seems to be straightforward. Only negative is he's not in Ireland.
And what about the future then? I was just looking at it, thinking, where does a miler go? You've the Jacqueline Mora, the Moulin, the QE2. Would you even consider 10 furlongs in Leopardstown?
He's in the 10 furlongs in Leopardstown, but my theory would be, like, we wouldn't do that, like the same as last year. He was winning over 6, and I didn't want to step him out of 6 because he kept winning. I didn't want to step him out of 6 until I had to. But ultimately, like, if he stays in training at 4, you'd be thinking of something like that. Do you know what I mean? It's not comparing him to Frankel, but these good horses, you just look at the programme of what Frankel did, and you sort of, well, copy and paste. We'll go down that road.
Well, it's a precedence Juddmonte set. They do keep horses in training as 4-year-olds, so that chance is there.
But there's a huge chance he'll stay in training. Like, the only reason he wouldn't stay in training is if he flops, if he runs 2 bad races. You know?
A bit of luck, that won't happen.
Bit of luck, that won't happen, yeah. So, I mean, you have the Breeders' Cup in mind, but I would rather do the Breeders' Cup at the end of his 4-year-old campaign rather than do it at the end of the 3 and ruin his 4-year-old campaign, if that makes any sense. So, and I don't want to be travelling to America in this climate that we're in at the moment with the COVID-19. So I would like to do what we're doing this year. If the wheels are still on the wagon, then aim differently next year. You know, you've York, you've everything open to you next year, please God, and round his career up in a Breeders' Cup, if you were lucky enough.
I know most trainers look at their own horses, but when you look at the opposition in the Sussex Stakes, is it Moatar, Kamiko, Earthlight? Which one do you think?
For me?
Yeah.
Moatar. I was seriously impressed, visually impressed with him the other day, but you can never, ever draw a line through a classic winner in England. Like, the Kamiko is the one, he won an English classic. For me, he's always the best form. He went out, he ran well, they met a better one in the Derby, whether it was Trip or whatever. I'm hoping that he's had a harder race than they think he's had, and that he needs 1.2 miles minimum. I'm hoping.
Just like a jumper, Jerry. Aye, it's like a jumper.
I know, isn't he lovely?
Isn't he?